Welcome to Subaru Ecu Flash Training Part 18. In this video, we're going to be exploring how to work with our cranking fuel, our post-start fuel, and our warm-up enrichment fuel modifiers that we have within our stock Subaru ROM and in a carberry-based ROM. We'll find that the cranking fuel is used when we're cranking over the engine, whether it's hot or cold. Once we exit the cranking conditions and start to run, we have what's known as a post-start fuel that applies fuel for a period of time, usually about 10-20 seconds, and then our warm-up enrichment, where the engine is cold and it hasn't came up to operating temperature, usually about 170, 180 degrees is going to be warmed up temperature. As we're transitioning from that cold to warm temperature, we need to have additional fuel flow in order to have the engine run smooth and run proper. So we have all these different factors to consider when we're getting our engine to fire up and actually run. We're going to cover how this is going to work, and we're going to be taking a look at some data log examples so we know exactly what to look for when we want to go and tune either of these situations when we're going in and getting our engine running. So without further wait, let's jump in so we can check this out. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at working with cranking, post-start, and warm-up enrichment fuel delivery for Subaru 16-bit applications. We'll find that we have to make sure all of these are right so the engine can crank up, can run properly for the first 10-20 seconds for air fuel delivery, and then as it's warming up to operating temperature, we're making sure that the air fuel delivery is going to be very specific and on point. So each of these different modes that we operate in are necessary for the engine to actually perform as expected. So if we're going from cranking and then firing off for the first few seconds and then actually starting to operate, coming up to normal operating temperature from a cold start, we're going to have to make sure that everything is dialed in precisely so that we have proper air fuel. It's not going to be running too rich or too lean, and we don't go into an idle surging problem that can happen a lot of times on a modified Subaru. What we're going to be doing is going through this again, generic terms, and then we're going to go through and break down which these tables represent here in our ROM files. We'll look at a stock ROM, we'll look at a carberry ROM, we'll take a look at ROM Rater of what to actually data log, and then move into Megalog Viewer and review some data, both a cold start and a hot start. And then we're actually going to be doing a live quick demonstration of firing off an engine. Vehicle I'm sitting here is a 2003 WRX. It's running on a carberry ROM. We're going to see if it gets an idle surge problem. Now that we switched over to the carberry ROM, it's the common problem to have happen. We'll take a look at what to avoid and what to program in order to fix this particular issue that this car has that I've noticed starting it off here a couple times cold. So first thing I want to go and move into this video is talking about our cranking, post-start, and warm-up enrichment in generic terms. What this actually means, how it works, and what we need to pay attention to. Generically, this is going to be for any petrol engine. It can still apply to a Subaru engine. Then we'll move into the actual files here and start to break down these different sections that we need to know about, very specific details associated with cranking, post-start, and warm-up, and then how to tune them properly. Again, then we'll move into some data log examples, and we can sort through all these details so it's very clear what to look for and how to edit the actual tables and parameters within our calibration ROM files. Okay, so what we're going to do here and take a look at a generic plot that I have coming up on screen. This is going to be showing you and illustrating what goes on between cranking, post-start, and warm-up and how it actually works. Now what we're going to find here on this particular graphical plot, on the left axis, we'll find that represents injector pulse width. So at the very bottom, that would be no injector pulse width, and as the arrow goes up, that's going to be increasing injector pulse width. On the lower axes, we'll find that's based on time, or specifically engine run time. All the way to the left, that represents the engine not running. And as we transition over from left to right, that represents more time as the engine actually cranks up and fires and runs. So that'll be representative of engine run time. So what we're going to find here is that we have some different color lines that are graphically plotted onto this. This represents the different modes of operation and trying to break this down of how it works. Now, what we want to go and take a look at here and discuss first is our red dotted line. The red dotted line is going to be the base injector pulse width from our air mass calculations or registrations going on within our ECU. So whether we're mass airflow or speed density style calculations, where the mass airflow is the measurement of airflow, air mass, and then we'll find in speed density, that's the calculated amount of air mass entering the engine. We know that our equation fuel mass is equal to air mass divided by target air fuel. The air mass is calculated from MAF, or measure it from MAF and calculate it, or calculate it from speed density. We know the target air fuel specified, and then we can convert that into a fuel mass. By knowing what the fuel mass and injector data characteristics are going to be, so the flow rate, the latency, the short pulse width, minimum pulse width, we can convert that into an actual pulse width we send to the fuel injector, which will deliver the fuel that we're expecting and that we need for the engine to run properly. So in this situation, we understand this base injector pulse width is coming from our air mass calculations. That's our baseline, that's our red line there. Now what we're going to find is we have this orange and the purple line. These two lines represent very specific fuel delivery that aren't tied to an injector pulse width calculation from air mass registration. This is very specific to cranking conditions. So taking a look at this, we have a prime pulse, and that's going to be a huge shot of fuel that's delivered to the engine under the first 1 or 2 cranking revolutions. This is going to be a very quick shot of fuel. It primes up the combustion chamber. Then it moves into cranking fuel. So that's more of our long-term fuel as we're actually letting the engine crank over a couple times. That's what we deliver for the pulse width into the engine. So the prime pulse is a very specific pulse width delivered very, very quick. And the cranking fuel is the pulse width that's delivered under steady state cranking conditions. Now, prime pulse or cranking pulse. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.